What the fog is up, my dudes and dudettes? Behind that camera is Colleen, and I am Todd. And if you are new to this channel, we make these absurdly useful videos of us converting this 2022 Sprinter cargo van you see behind me here into the ultimate adventure vehicle on wheels. Today, we've got a quick one for you. We are installing the Baja Designs SAE Fog Light Kit for Sprinter vans. This kit has everything you need to get rid of those crappy halogen fog lights and put in something with a little bit more juice. But the nice thing is, they're still SAE rated. What does that mean exactly? Well, that means you can turn these on the street while you're driving legally in the United States, which is a super important feature. Now, we picked these up from a company called Leeward Vans. If you've never heard that name before, you're gonna wanna check them out. They're doing some pretty cool things over there, including a new walkable solar panel that we'll be featuring on our channel here shortly. Go ahead and drop Anthony a line and tell him Todd sent you. That about covers it. So, what the fog are we waiting for? Let's fog and get into it. Okay, we're going to start by removing the trim ring on the driver's side, aka the easy side. And the reason for this is because there's enough room you can actually reach up underneath the bumper on this side to disengage the clips. I'm most certainly telling you it has to be done this way, from the back on at least 2 to 3 clips if you don't want to break them. Then once you have a majority of them removed, you can move back to the front with a trim removal tool and some really light pulling to pop it off. Here is the removal order from the driver's side. Again, I cannot stress this enough, try to remove as many of these clips as you can from the inside first. So let's take a closer look at these clips because I think this is the worst part of the whole project. First, the faux clip. I originally thought this was a clip and was flexing it from the inside, but it's not, it's just a guide. To remove the 2 upper clips, you need to push them up. This side clip actually needs to be pushed inward, and then the 2 bottom clips need to be pulled down. Honestly, it's a pain in the keister and was obviously meant to be done with the bumper off in my opinion. Then to get the fog and light out, yep, we are quadrupling down on that joke. You need to remove a single T25 torque screw in the upper outside corner. Here's a better shot of that screw and where it came from. To remove the light from the harness, it's easy. You simply squeegee the sides of it and the connector will come out of the H11 plug. We are taking note of this for reasons which will be revealed later. Oh, the anticipation. Alright, let's move on to the torturous passenger side. The def tank is right in the way here, so I tried with all my might to go in from the wheel well by removing some of the flap. Unfortunately, it's still tighter than a pair of skinny jeans after a Thanksgiving dinner, so I was only able to reach 3 tabs this time and had to sacrifice my arm to do so. I literally had bruises the next day. Not fun. But no pain, no gaining of new fog lights, am I right? Anyways, I took care of the last top 2 tabs from the front with a trim removal tool and a small flathead screwdriver because one of the tabs was super duper stubborn. In fact, both the 2 top clips took a considerable amount of persuading to remove. They just refused to let go. You can see on the plastic how deformed it is as I tried everything I could to get these to pop. I even ended up cracking this one slightly. I ended up tacking it back together with cyanoacrylate, the formal industrial name for superglue. All right, so I was going to put a section here where I talk about what parts I needed to remove in order to peel back that mud flap to reach in to pop those clips on the passenger side, but honestly, I just wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It actually really sucked and my arm is still sore a couple days later here. So what I'm going to say instead is you can either try to remove it from the front, you'll probably break a couple clips and you can just glue them back together, or you just go all in and rip that thing off knowing that you're going to break all the clips and just replace it with a new one. It's about a $20 part, so really time and frustration equals money here, and I would probably just recommend you do that on the passenger side. I'm going to link that part number in the description below if you want to go that route. All right, let's get back to the normally scheduled program. Now that the hard part is over, you simply remove the fog light the same way as before with a T25 Torx driver and a single screw. You'll wiggle it out of the cavity and disconnect the connector. Let's crack this box open like we're a 2-year-old on Christmas and see what we have here. Inside the box, aside from the lights, you'll find the Sprinter-specific hardware, which consists of 4 brackets and a bag of bolts. In addition to that, probably the worst 3D printed parts I think I've ever seen in my life. And we also need to grab a couple of screws from the standard Squadron hardware, which is included in a bag marked 20-1003. You need to take the 2 M6 screws at least, but I also took the lock washers as well. Then I found laying out the 3D prints and brackets to get their orientation was helpful since the assemblies are mirror images of one another. These 2 larger brackets attached to the shroud like this, taking note that the flange bends point to the outside and the longer arc with the slot is oriented towards the cutout in each shroud. Then you'll need a 4mm hex key and a 10mm socket to tighten these screws. And then the bolt goes through the bracket goes on the inside of the shroud, and the washer and the nut go on the outside. Then you'll tighten these babies up, making sure that the bracket and the shroud are perfectly lined up. You'll also want to be a bit careful here since these are 3D printed parts. You don't want to go ham and tighten this sucker ultra tight because there is a chance you could break the shroud. Then you can attach the smaller brackets. They also attach on the inside with the screw threads pointed towards the outside of the shroud with a washer and a lock nut. Be sure to take the same precautions as before. And here's how the finished assembly should look with the bracket straight relative to the shroud and the hole and slot lined up on the 2 brackets. Now it's time to attach the lights to the assembly. This is where I used the lock washers I nabbed from the Squadron kit. This isn't technically in the instructions, but it felt right to me. There's also a spacer that's added on the side with the larger bracket. For pointing the lights, I did my best to align everything square and straight relative to each other. We'll just have to see how this looks when we turn them on for the first time. Alright, we just finished mounting these Squadron lights into the provided brackets, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant because I feel like this needs to be said. Now the Squadron lights themselves, they are absolutely beautiful. They really knocked it out of the park. And I guess that's why Baja Designs is called the scientists of lighting. Now you can buy these by themselves for $350 and this Sprinter kit is $515. That's a delta of $165 and I'm just not seeing where that went. You have this 3D printed shroud that looks like it was printed on a $200 Amazon FDM printer. I mean, the quality is just bad. At Baja Design scale, like this should really be SLS printed or even injection molded. It should look like I cannot make this by myself at home using rudimentary 3D printers, and it just doesn't. The stainless steel brackets are probably only $3 to $5 at scale, so not much money there. And then they give you this little adapter that goes from the Baja light to the factory harness. Honestly, I think the price is a little bit much. I would still probably buy them and I'd still put them on my Sprinter, but I think as customers, we should demand a little bit more quality from stuff like this, especially on such an expensive van. Baja Designs, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I really appreciate you making this kit for us. And I really think that it's a great idea and I love these lights and I can't wait to put them to use. But just try a little bit better to give people more value for their money, especially with things like this 3D print. That's just unacceptable in my mind. It just looks bad. I'm sorry. All right, with that out of the way, we can add the little EPDM bumpers on the brackets. The instructions have a really weird way of calling out what size to cut these, so I just found that 4 1/2" by 5/8" inch pieces work best. Okay, so the Baja lights themselves, they ship with these connectors on there already, and then as part of the Sprinter kit, you get an adapter kit. This adapter kit basically allows you to take this provided connector, which plugs into the Baja light, which then plugs into a 6-inch jumper, and then finally goes to the H11 plug, which I've already removed from the jumper here. If you watch my channel, this should come as no surprise that I don't really like this. It's close to 18 inches of additional cable on a kit that's supposed to be as OEM plug and play as possible. So what I'm going to do instead is cut down the light wire, and I'm going to take the included H11 connector, and I've bought new pins and new seals for it, which I'll link below, and then I'm going to make the light plug directly into the OEM harness. That sounds easy enough. Let's make it happen. I cut the wire down to about 5 inches using my Klein flush cutters. I also use these cutters to remove the outer jacket. You have to be really careful here not to cut the wires inside, so I make really shallow cuts all the way around and then use my fingernail to break through the rest of the way. I then stripped the wires to length, slid the seals on each wire, and first crimped the new terminals to each of the wires, followed by crimping the seals into place using the tool I picked up from the horn upgrade video. This thing has really come in handy lately, and honestly, with the amount of terminal crimping we do around here and the cost of only 20 bucks, I wish I would have bought it sooner. To remove the H11 connector from the included adapter, you simply take a small flathead screwdriver and lever the lever outwards while you pull the terminals out. You can see there's a key down in this plug that fits in the corresponding slot on the factory connector. So the plug goes on this way. And on the OEM harness, brown is ground and the striped wire is plus 12 volt DC. So referencing the squadron manual, black is ground and white is positive, so black to brown and white to striped. Black to brown and white to striped. So with that in mind, we loaded the wire colors with their new terminals in the correct locations. If you aren't reworking the harness like this, you simply need to make sure the brown wire from the van makes it to the black wire on the squadron, and the striped wire from the van makes it to the white wire. I also added some 1/2 inch marine grade shrink tubing over this connector for good measure. The plug itself is sealed, but nothing wrong with being extra sealed, or. With the wiring harness taken care of, I moved on to the easiest part of the whole project, the reinstall. I simply plugged the light in and slid the inside brackets with the EPDM chunks into the slots in the bumper, and then levered the light into position. The back of the light gets hung up a bit on the plastic, but if you push hard, the plastic will give and the light will fall into place. And then you simply reattach it with the T25 screw. Then we can check the power, and we are Gucci. And now we just have to wait for it to get dark. This front shot, you can not only see how much brighter the light is, but the lensing is really making it nice and uniform with a clear and defined beam pattern. Then I went ahead and swapped out the driver's side light for the Baja light as well. Then the next morning, after some blueberry pancakes covered in Land O'Lakes butter and doused with 100% maple syrup from Canada, I reinstalled the fog light trim pieces and called this one done. So I'm sitting here putting the final edits on this video, and I realized I didn't record an outro, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Well, my friends, that wraps up another video in the Adventure Van build series. We're going to make this quick because we're already pushing the limits of how long this video should be for this fog install. This is definitely a DIY friendly project. The total cost of the project is $514. It is what it is, and you can definitely knock this out in about a half an hour. It's definitely one of the easiest projects that we've done, except for our little tangent to make the wiring harness acceptable for our particular standards. Anyways, if you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up. It really helps us out. If you have any questions or comments about what you've seen in this video, drop those down below. And on your way down there, you know what to do. Slap that subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Everything you need to remove those crappy fog. Today, we've got a quick one for you. Our mailman is right behind me with his super loud truck. I can feel it coming in the air tonight.